just going to be walking through a quick overview of our Searchspring dashboard. We'll walk through a couple of key reporting metrics, take a look at merchandising, and finally wrap up with some search customizations. So right now we're on the dashboard, which will be the first page that will load whenever you first log into Searchspring. There's a lot of great information that you'll be able to find on this page. A couple of key things up here at the top, you'll be able to see any announcements that have gone out to our customer base recently. You'll also be able to see the indexing status. So this will show you the data feed size, so how many products we're pulling in, the time that it was last completed. So if you've made any updates to your product pricing or have launched new products since the last time that an index was completed, the next time that they'll be live on Searchspring will be when your next index is scheduled to start, or when you click manually update index, we'll go ahead and push those updates through ahead of that next scheduled index time. A couple of other things that we'll want to touch on here below are going to be looking at your search performance. So what % of your shoppers overall actually interact with search on the site, what their conversion rate is, and then how much of that total revenue is actually attributed to search. Clicking on any of these links here will actually take you to our reporting portion of the Searchspring Management Console, which we'll cover here in just a second. Down below here, you'll be able to see some of our top search terms, the average number of products that are being returned for that particular search, what that conversion rate is, and then how many times that search was done in the last 30 days. One thing to note here is that you can change this date range to be either one of the default 7, 14, 30 days or a custom date range. And then all of the information on this page will change with the exception of announcements and indexing here. Going down, you'll be able to see if we're integrated on any of your category or collections page. We'll show you the average number of products that are being shown in that particular collection, and then how many page views it's had cumulatively over the last 30 days, or whatever date range you're looking at. We'll also show you our spell correction insights, so what the original term was and then what that was corrected to, how many times that correction actually occurred. So you'll be able to see all of those here. Directly to the right of that will be the zero result searches. So anytime someone did a search for a particular product or information on the site that ultimately yielded no products, some of these could be things that you truly don't carry, or they could be things where we need to have a synonym relationship set up. Say you call all of your jeans denim, we just want to go ahead and get that synonym relationship created so that anytime someone searches for jeans or denim, they're able to find the intended products. Going down here, we'll also have any of your top performing products. So this will be based on all of our IntelliSuggest tracking. So we're going to look at the number of views, clicks, add to carts, and purchases that each of your products has over a rolling 90-day basis to ultimately determine which of those products receives the most views, the top grossing, and then top transactions to power these. All of those will be able to be viewable within Product Insights as well, which we'll take a look at here as we jump over to reporting. Just a couple of other things to highlight while we're on the dashboard. Up here at the top, you'll have access to view a lot of pertinent information. So you'll be able to click on our idea portal, which will take you to any of the current ideas that we have for future product developments. You'll be able to actually vote on those directly from this page. So if it's really important to you to be able to see a breakdown of what synonyms will do when applied to the site, you can indicate how important that is to you down here, and that feedback sent directly to our product team. Anything that we're currently working on will be found in this Coming Soon tab, and then anything that we've recently released can be found here. If you are really wanting to see something that's not already listed here, you can always click on the Submit Idea option here, and you can send feedback directly to our product team. A couple of other key things to look at here, there's also the support option, so this can prompt you to open a support ticket with our team should you need any technical assistance. There'll also be a system status option here. This will take you to our status page should there be any issues that you're experiencing with Searchspring. If it's a known issue, we'll have it listed here. And then finally, there's the My Account option. This will ultimately take you to be able to view your billing history and any other pertinent information here. You'll also be able to edit your customer profile. So if you need to update your time zone or anything like that, you can do that here. You can also sign up for indexing success and indexing failure notifications on this page to be sent to you directly via email. Jumping over to reporting, there's a couple of key reports that we'll want to touch on today. The first of those being our Search Insights report. So a couple of key differentiators here. The Insights report and anything that you see on this top level is going to be a combination of Searchspring and Google Analytics data. Anything that's found under the basic reports section here is going to be solely based on Searchspring data. So you might see some slightly differing numbers just depending on how Google Analytics is tracking that versus Searchspring. One of the key examples there is that Google Analytics is going to look at both plural and non-plural terms separately, whereas Searchspring will consider those to be the same term. So looking at search insights here, we'll go ahead and give you a breakdown of your most popular searches, your top grossing searches, so what is encouraging people to spend the most, and then ultimately your top converting searches. I wouldn't put a lot of emphasis on top converting just because these are typically ones that were done very infrequently on the site and thus have a really high conversion rate. You can also edit the date range that you're looking at here, similar to how we saw on the dashboard, to be able to give you a little bit of a tighter or wider view just depending on the information that you're looking for. We do also have our search terms tree here in the middle. This is going to give you an overview of what your most popular keywords are and then what terms are typically searched alongside with them. So if you wanted to see what's typically searched with cardigan, you can see black, cotton, cable. All of those are very common words to be included alongside this popular keyword. Directly underneath here, we'll give you a breakdown of popular search terms. I currently have these just ordered based on the number of unique searches. So right now, tie-dye is the most popular from an overall perspective. On average, there are 4 products being returned. So if that seems a little too low or a little too high just based on the products that you know that you currently have, we might need to look at creating a synonym here to incorporate other products should we be missing any that might not have tie-dye in their searchable data. You'll also be able to see things like the conversion rate. So how often does a search for that particular query actually end in someone making a purchase? And then finally, you'll also be able to have access to be able to create a merchandising campaign directly from here. So you'll be able to see here that there's already a campaign created for travel wrap. So if we wanted to make any edits to that, you could easily click on that directly from this report. A couple of things that I typically look at in addition to what's already showing here is I'll typically take a look at the exit rate or percentage of search exits that are associated with a particular search. These are going to be things where it's a little bit difficult to pinpoint what a good exit rate is to have. Typically, the lower the better. However, those are going to be relative based on the other search terms that you have. So if I were looking at this, a couple of outliers here would be things like camo. The reason that you're seeing that exit rate here be a little higher is because there's not any products that are currently being returned for camo. So might need to look at creating a synonym there. Whereas a really good exit rate is going to be on travel wrap. You currently have a campaign for that and it's doing its job. We don't want people to leave the site after they see search results. So definitely a good metric to keep an eye out for. A couple of other reports that we'll want to take a look at are going to be spell correction insights. So this is going to give you an overview of what current terms are actually being corrected on the site based on the intelligence that we have installed into autocomplete. So we'll give that a second to load here. And while we're waiting on that, I'll just go ahead and hop over to collection insights since it's really similar to that search insight page. Collection insights, again, is going to be based on the last 30 days unless we modify that date range in any way. We'll also want to pull in similar characteristics for this particular search. So if I wanted to order these based on the number of unique page views to get an idea of popularity, I can also, again, see here the average number of products that are being returned for that particular collection. Now, there is a difference between that bounce and an exit rate. So bounce rate is going to be associated with the number of entrances, meaning people who actually entered the site and this was the first page that they viewed, versus exit rate, which means that they came to this page after viewing an additional page on the site. So this bounce rate is typically a pretty good indicator of the quality of traffic that you're sending to that page. So if you do see that to be significantly higher and you notice that there's a lot of entrances, for example, on your travel wraps for women, you might want to take a look at any of the CPC or email campaigns that you have running here. Same thing exists as what we saw on the Search Insights page, where you're able to create merchandising campaigns directly from here. One of the benefits, given that you guys are on Shopify, is that we'll actually create that merchandising campaign based on your collection ID behind the scenes. So you don't have to remember what that is or log into Shopify to view that. This is definitely going to be the easiest way to either edit or create a campaign for a new collection that you might have created. A couple of times I have gotten questions just around page value and what a good page value is. That's going to be really subjective, not only to the account, just based on the average price of products that you're currently selling, but also based on the average price of products that are found on that particular collection page. So typically pages where you have sale products and things like that, you're going to see that page value dip. So typically not a great performance indicator as an exit rate or bounce rate would be. Go ahead and hop back over to the spell correction insights. So once we're on this page, we'll be able to see how many total corrections were done within the last 30 days, a breakdown of the device that those corrections occurred on. So it looks like the large majority of them actually happened on mobile for you guys. We'll also, if you scroll down here, be able to see what was the initial term that was typed in versus what it was corrected to, and then how many times that correction actually took place. So for you guys, a lot of those are going to be for things like turtleneck and camouflage and tie-dye, making sure that people are searching consistently there. A couple of other things that we'll want to take a look at before we hop back into some of these product and Google Analytics insights. Zero result searches is going to be one of the most important basic reports that we have access to. The reason being is that it'll show you instances where someone has searched for a particular term that ultimately yielded no results on the site. So a lot of people find this to be a pretty scary report, but it can give a lot of insight into the actions that we should take going forward. So for example, if someone's searching for a product that you don't carry, maybe that's a discussion that you take back internally to see if that's something that makes sense to carry in the future. Maybe someone's searching for content related things like return information or contact details, and you just need to get a redirect set up. And we'll talk about those through search customizations here in just a minute. Or maybe it's something where you simply call those products something different than how people are searching for it. The example that I gave back on the dashboards was if you called all of your jeans denim, we just want to go ahead and create a synonym here so that we can tie those two terms together to ensure that people are able to find what they're looking for. So definitely some terms that I would take a look at here, specifically camo and poncho, just to make sure that if needed, we're tying those to the appropriate terms on your end so that shoppers can find what they're looking for moving forward. A couple of other reports that are super useful under basic reports are going to be the filters report. So Searchspring powers all of the filters that shoppers are able to use on the front end to narrow down their results. And we'll give you a breakdown of how those are actually interacted with on the site. So for example, over here under filter summary, we'll give you an idea of how many people are narrowing down their results by color or category or size. And then ultimately we'll want to make sure that your filters are set up in this order on the front end so that people are able to find the filters that they care about the most in a easy to view fashion on the front end. A couple of things to note here. You'll notice that collection ID is significantly higher than any of the other filters. That's just because this is the background filter that we're using in order to load your collection merchandising on those pages. So you can pretty much disregard that one here. But if you wanted to come down to the value breakdown, you could go ahead and type in something like SS color, which is going to give you a breakdown to see what your most popular colors are for people to narrow down by. So beige and brown are far and away the most popular colors over the last 30 days. And then if we were looking at size, we'd be able to see that size small and extra small are your two most popular sizes as well. So something to keep in mind there, we might want to set up some rules on our end to make sure that those sizes are in stock for the products that you're looking to highlight, just because they are the ones that are most popular given the filter summary breakdown on this report. We'll get into some of these other reports at a later date, but one of the things that I did want to touch on was going to be our product insights report. So again, this is going to be based all on our IntelliSuggest tracking that we're using kind of twofold. One, to give you some insight into how your products are individually performing. It can also be used for our product recommendation suite, should you choose to use us for that. And then finally, it's also used for automatic product elevations based on a per search basis. So the products that you could see elevated for a search for travel wrap would be completely different than if someone's searching for crew neck, since we're going to be tracking which products are the most interacted with based on that specific search term. All that to be said, we'll break down your products into several different sections. Underexposed and best performers are going to give you an idea of how that product is performing overall. So we'll give you an idea of the number of views that are associated with it, the number of add to carts, and ultimately the number of purchases, thus impacting that conversion rate. Same thing here for needs attention and overexposed. Typically anything on this column over here for best performers and overexposed is going to carry a high number of views, where anything on this side is going to have a low number of views and typically a lower conversion. Now, directly underneath here, you'll actually be able to see a breakdown of individual SKU performance. So there's going to be columns for every SKU that show how many times that was actually viewed from a search versus navigation versus how many views and add to carts are associated with it. So if I wanted to dig into this SKU here, I'd be able to pull it up on this page. And for my essential cashmere crew neck cardigan, this has a conversion rate of a little under 1%. It has $1,300 in revenue that are associated with it over the last 30 days. I can then see the device usage, so where people are viewing that versus where they're actually checking out. So it looks like all of my sales are actually happening on desktop, even though a large portion of my product views are coming from mobile. Directly underneath here, we'll give you an idea of any trends that are associated with that. So if you see a large spike in product views, could have something to do with advertising that you're running during that specific time frame. You'll also be able to see search history. So if someone did a search for cardigan, this product was shown in the third position on the first page. There were 80 products that were returned in total, and this happened 9 times. So it'll give you an idea of how frequently people are actually seeing this product through search results. And then directly underneath here, if they're coming from a different URL, you'll be able to see how often that's happening here. Lots of really granular information, but if you do want to dig into that individual SKU performance, this is a great way to do so. Our Google Analytics insights going to be essentially what our old dashboard used to look like. So all of the information on here used to live on our Searchspring dashboard. This will give you a breakdown as to the percent of shoppers who are actually interacting with search on your website and how much they're attributing to your bottom line from an overall revenue perspective. So in this case, shoppers who use search, so that 4%, contribute to 10% of your overall revenue and are more likely to convert by about 2.5 times than someone who's just actually browsing your category pages. So definitely important to try to raise this number of people using search on the site so that you can ultimately drive your bottom line from a revenue and conversion rate perspective. Same thing down here. This is just going to give you your top 100 search terms as shown by Google Analytics. Instead of using this, I definitely recommend using Search Insights just because we'll provide you with that additional information like products and requests. No, that was a lot of information. There's definitely still a few things to get through here. So we'll go ahead and jump over to merchandising. So a couple of different merchandising segments here. One is going to be our global merchandising campaign. Any rules that you have set up here are going to be applicable to any search and any category page. So essentially anywhere where Searchspring is integrated. If we're only integrated on search pages, it'll only impact search. And if we're integrated on search and collection, it'll impact both of those. So this allows you to set up a series of rules or business logic that will automatically reorder products based on the data that we have associated with them. So right now, there's rules set up based on whether or not that product is in stock. So we're looking at the Searchspring inventory count. We're also looking to make sure that the collection is not sale or sale cashmere. So if there are products that are found in either of those collections, we don't want to highlight them. And then ultimately, we're ordering products based on the number of unique purchases. And if there's a tie there, we want to show products that are the newest ones first. So you can see that down here. Any changes that you made here that are made here are only going to impact pages that aren't already manually merchandised. So if you have a standalone merchandising campaign for a particular search or particular collection, any changes that you make after the fact here won't impact that. You would have to go in and apply those separately. The other thing that you're able to do within here is actually apply banners. So if there was a site-wide sale going on for free shipping or something of that nature, you could actually come in here, write up some custom HTML and CSS, or add in a specific image, maybe that marketing has designed for you guys. Add that in here. If there's a specific reference or target URL, you can pop that in as well. And then all you'll be forced to do is select that banner placement. So if you want it to appear above the search results or above your collection pages results, you'll just select primary or secondary banner. If you want it to appear directly above your filters, you can select the left option. Or if you want that to appear below results, you can also use the footer. All of that is something that you can actually tie into the campaign start and end date or the schedule. So if you wanted to set a start date in the future, you could come in here and say, hey, I actually want this to start on February 24th and end a week later on March 2nd. You can come in here and set all of that up ahead of time. And until that campaign start date and time are hit, we're just going to use the default sort. So in this case, we're going to show products based on the number of days since published from low to high. Now, once you have those rules set up to accomplish the large majority of your merchandising, there is an option to come in here and create those standalone campaigns. So if I wanted to create a merchandising campaign for a specific search, say travel wraps, I know I already have a campaign created for this. So if I click Start Merchandising here, you'll notice that this text shows up in red, meaning that I actually already have a campaign created for it. Anytime you see those green arrows here, that's going to be something that's automatically elevated by IntelliSuggest. So the only way to override that would be to manually move products around. So a couple of different options on how to do that. You can drag and drop, or you can use the double click functionality based on this cursor. So depending on where I move the cursor on the page, the next product that I double click will go directly to the left of it. So if I wanted this cashmere wrap to appear first, I could just double click it and it'll be promoted into that first position. Now the next product that I double click will still go to the left of this cursor, so it will replace the product that I currently have in that second position. Now, one thing to note is that any of these products that are pinned into place will no longer follow your rules that are set up. So if this product becomes unavailable or the collection is changed to sale, that product will still appear in this position because you have it pinned. If you want products to follow those global rules that you have set up or slightly modified rules, you can come into the boost rules here, make any additions that you'd like to make. Say you want to promote a specific color or a specific price point, you can make all of those changes here, and those will be reflected, but only on a search for travel wrap. Now, a couple of other things that come into play here. Same thing that we saw on the global merchandising campaign. You can select a campaign start and end date. So if you only wanted certain products to be promoted for a week or two at a time, you could set all of that up ahead of time so that all of that is dependent based on that schedule. Same thing for banner content. So if you wanted to have a primary banner that appeared on this page for Black Friday or Cyber Monday, or maybe a Valentine's sale that you're running, you could have all of that set up here. Then you don't have to remember to log in at midnight when the sale ends to remove that banner. The same functionality that we just talked about for search campaigns will also apply for category campaigns. So this is again based on that collection ID since you guys are on Shopify. So I'll just go ahead and pull through this collection ID. Again, it'll show in red since I already have a campaign created. But you'll notice here that there's not going to be any products that are promoted by IntelliSuggest. That is on a search by search basis only. So your boost rules will have a bit larger impact here. So anything that you go ahead and add in, either from a boost rule perspective or from a manual merchandising perspective, will be the only thing that will impact this page. So for example, if I wanted to pull this product up to the first position, and then I decided that I didn't want it there any longer, I could select this unpin option down here at the bottom left-hand side. You'll notice that that text changes to remove for products that aren't pinned. So in this case, if I were to remove this product, it would only remove it from appearing within this collection. It would not feed back to Shopify and actually remove that from the collection within Shopify. And if I do that on accident, I can come over here to products, select that remove tab, and then quickly and easily add that product back in. So no worries if you end up doing that. Really, the only other thing that differs for collection merchandising versus search merchandising is the ability to add in a custom filter order. So by default, we're going to use the order that's set under search customizations, but if you want, you are able to reorder these. Say you want size to be the first filter that shows, but only on this particular collection. You can reorder those or hide them based on clicking on the icon to the far right of the applicable filter. Once you made all your changes, all you'll have to do is select Save Here, and that will immediately push any new merchandising live to the site. Now, there's one last portion of merchandising that we haven't talked about, and that's going to be creating a landing page campaign. So this is going to be something that essentially overrides your styling for your search result page, but won't impact any of your search reporting. So for Google Analytics or Searchspring, these won't count as actual search results. So for example, if I create a test campaign here, this is a blank slate for me to add in any products that I want, any banners that I want, and then ultimately be able to use this for any sort of email campaigns where maybe I want to show people a specific color. I want to highlight all of my beige ones because that's really popular based on the filters report that we just saw. So I just went ahead and pulled in those 10 products. This can be either done through using one of the filters, the search results, or by bulk importing them based on the SKU. So a couple different options on how you can actually get products in here. Once this is created and you actually save this, the only way for someone to find this on the site would be for them to come to White & Warren. And then in this case, I'm just going to do a blank search here. And then I'm going to remove this query is equal to, and I'm going to replace that with tag equals test. And in this case, let me take just a quick look here because they don't have theirs set up like most of them. So probably just need to take out this and keep that in view. So tag equals test. Perfect. So this one's a little bit different. So just something to keep in mind. I always test these out prior to actually jumping on the phone with a customer. In this case, you are going to be able to use this URL to send people to this page if you want to highlight any of these products here. So really great for kind of standalone merchandising that you want to do. Say you're sending out a Valentine's email and want to highlight all of your red products. You'd be able to pull all of those in here and then have a specific campaign created just for that particular campaign that you're running. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove this really quickly. And then from merchandising, a couple of things that we will want to touch on, one of those being synonyms. So there's a difference between group synonyms and one-way synonyms. So a couple of things that we talked about when looking at the dashboard and reporting was that there might need to be a synonym created between jean and denim. That would be a great use case for a group synonym because anytime someone searches for denim, we want it to mean the exact same thing as a search for jean. In this case, we could come in here, select add synonym, and we'd type in denim, and we'd type in jean, and that's going to be how we would set that synonym relationship up. Now, there are a couple of instances where maybe you'd want to have a one-way synonym. So you'd want to limit when that synonym could be applied. Say someone did a search for winter clothes on the site, and you wanted to show them your scarves, your gloves, your hats, and jackets. But if someone does a search for scarves, you definitely don't want to show them hats. So this limits the synonym that you have created to only be applicable if someone searches for winter clothes. So typically speaking, they really shouldn't be set up except for very specific one-off cases like that. You will typically use group synonyms most frequently. So a couple of options here. These probably could be removed. The shirt one is definitely a good one to keep around, however. Same thing for this winter accessories, great one there. A couple of different things that we'll want to touch on. Really, query replacements, exact matches, and ignore terms should only be used in one-off specific cases. Typically speaking, group synonyms are going to be the safer way to go, just because a query replacement will actually take away a shopper's ability to search for something. So if you're asking yourself, should it be a synonym or a query replacement, I would always err on the side of caution and create a synonym. Now, there are a couple of other things that I wanted to touch on, one of those being redirects. So say someone did a search for return information or returns. We could actually direct them to that specific URL, and then anytime someone used the search bar, they'd be able to find that particular URL without having to do any work on their end. I typically recommend those only for instances where they're searching for content, or you spend a lot of time merchandising a particular category page or collection, and you want people to be sent there even if they perform a search. A couple of other things, faceting under display settings. If we wanted to reorder these based on what we were seeing as trends under the filters report, we could drag and drop these around. Or if you wanted to add an additional filter, say you want to add in something for price, you could come in here, select price as the field that you want to use, add that in, and then that will be shown on the front end for shoppers to be able to narrow down their results. Similar for sorting, these are going to be your default sort, so based on the number of days since published. And then if you wanted to add in something, say for bestsellers or other information that's important to you guys, maybe it's highest rated, we could add all of those sorting options in here. Last but not least, there's an option here for search preview. So if you wanted to test out any of the search terms prior to actually doing them on your live site, this is a great place to come and do so. Main reason being is that it'll give you any of the logic that we're using behind the scenes to identify which products should be shown first based on those global boost rules. It'll also give you the ability to add in additional filters or fields. So if you wanted to see what SKU was associated with the product or what color data was associated with them, you could actually come in here and pull in all of that data. So for example, if I did a search for beige hat, I could see why these products are being returned simply by clicking into view details here. So for example, I did a search for hat. You'll see that there's a synonym being applied for beanie and hat. So in this case, we're returning those based on a match within the collection name, tags, title, product type, and collection name. And then we're also looking at beige and sand. So in order to return this product here, we're looking at variant color and tags. So lots of great data there. The reason why this product is showing first is based on how well it meets the boost rules. So in this case, we are going to be pulling in the number of days since published. And in this case, the product that's showing here, the reason why it's showing in this position is because it's not associated with any of those sale categories. So it is going to show before any of these that might be associated with those with those sale collections. So even though it's an older product, these guys here are still associated with those sale collections. So lots of great information there. It's a good way to double check any of the data that you have associated with products, especially if you notice duplicates here on color, might have an issue with some of the tag data in Shopify. So always good to just double check that. See here with V-neck, there's V-neck with a capital N and V-neck with a lowercase. You can click in here, identify which products need to be updated, and then ultimately update those within Shopify. So lots of great information there. So no, we still have a lot to cover, and there's definitely a lot of optimizations that we can continue to make. but that's a pretty good overview of what should be covered in an initial training.